Svartar, everyone! That's a word. And guess what? It's also Icelandic. Welcome to the blank space, where we just fill it in with something? Right?
This week, gelatin.
What? Jealous?
Uh, Gelatin.
Gelatin.
Yes.
Which
You know,
which
the, the,
gelatin?
the, the multicolored stuff you buy from the grocery store that usually comes in cups?
You mean jello?
That one. I'm using
Why
the
don't
scientific term.
I
It's the
don't like
Latin
your
name.
I don't like your Latin jello.
Now I just imagine someone wanted to make really fancy jello. They call it Latin jello. And then people would probably buy it because, it's Latin. It's a dead language.
I do kind of like that idea. Like if I just had money sitting around, I think I would invest poorly in it.
Well, at least you're entirely honest that you are investing poorly.
I know what's going on and I know where it's going.
Do you?
The answer is nowhere, guy.
Important stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. That's for sure.
Anyway, how's it going, Ed?
I'm doing good. Did you end up doing anything fun over the week?
Well, if by fun you mean stay inside and play video games, then yes. Yes, I had so much fun.
Ooh.
Fancy. But that is not the topic of today's discussion.
You
Today,
are correct.
today I would like to bring up a YouTube video.
Okay.
Now, we're both fans of the Vlogbrothers.
I would say
John
so.
Green and Hank Green.
Okay.
And they recently put out a video, well, John specifically did, about having pictures of yourself. Now, that wasn't the exact frame of reference for the video itself. It delved into a little bit deeper of a topic. But it got me thinking, Ant, do you have a lot of pictures of yourself? Or does your family have a lot of pictures of you?
Not particularly. I mean, like, though I'm grading on the scale of Instagram models,
Uh,
so
yeah.
no.
But I mean, like, do you have at least, like, one picture of you a month?
That sounds about right. Maybe less.
Yeah, I thought that was a little weird. Not you in particular, but like just in general, I'm the same way. I don't have a ton of pictures of myself. I don't have an Instagram, so I don't take a ton, or a Snapchat, so I don't take a ton of pictures of myself or the things around me. But
Mm-hmm.
I realized there are just large stretches of my life I just have no pictures of.
Yeah, that's true for me. I mean, usually how it goes for me is that I won't take pictures for a long time, and maybe every once in a while that I'll have like just a bout of I don't know, just a bunch get taken. I go somewhere or something, that kind of deal.
Like a birthday or a holiday or with the family or something.
Yeah, something like that. And usually then it's on somebody else's Instagram. So
do, do you ever think that's weird though? That, like, let's say 5, 10, 20 years from now, there's just going to be long stretches of your life that you don't have photos from?
you know,
Or
if you
even actually just photos of you. Because, I mean, if you think about it, like you're saying, it's photos other people have taken, so you might not even have access to those pictures.
that's true for a good majority of them actually, but I'd say I do take s- somewhat regular photos though, at least like yearly kind of deal. Every six
At
months.
least one a year.
Well, at least like I usually update my stuff every 3 months or so,
Your
or
stuff.
maybe 6 months. I'll like update a profile picture or something like that.
Hmm.
Like that's usually what I'll end up doing. Like if I end up taking a photo of myself, it's usually just for the sake of updating a profile picture. Cough cough.
Do, well, I don't know. It feels kind of odd to me that like we have two extremes kind of for people. We have basically people who don't take pictures very often, like you and I, where it's a couple of times a year we'll take actual photos,
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people who take it all the time. And I guess in a way I'm leaning more towards that. The people who are taking photos of themselves all the time, sure, it seems odd to me and you, but sometime in the future they're going to be able to look back on all that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have photographic evidence of what they've done in the past. While we have memories and we have that, something I think about often is I personally don't have the best memory.
I know I don't either.
I don't remember a lot. Like I have trouble remembering a lot of things from
Mm-hmm.
like tiny things, which is like, hey, have I eaten like a full 3 or even 2 big meals today? To what was I doing like a couple of days ago, a week ago, a year ago?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely get that feeling.
Yeah,
Like I for the most part really don't have like a good idea of what I've kind of I usually just don't remember stuff for the most part.
yeah. I know. For me, I like to hold on to things that have memories to them. Like I have
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of mementos all over my room, everywhere. That's just like, oh, I remember that because there's a story behind it, and I can have a memory tied to that item.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's weird that in my own head, I'm like, oh yeah, I I tie these things to memories. Yet I don't like to take pictures of these events.
I usually go of the rule of like when you're out doing something, you do the thing
Yeah.
rather than get pictures of it kind of deal. I've been finding myself wanting to at least try and take more pictures as of late though, just because yeah, it's kind of nice to have
Yeah,
kind of
like
deal.
like for example, the Night Vale events that both me and you went to. We have a picture of the first one. Just one. I mean, it's nothing crazy. We didn't take like a million photos of the event. We just took one
Mm-hmm.
of all of us together.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second event we just have no pictures of. So 20 years from now, am I going to remember I went to that?
Ooh, that's a that's a fair point actually. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I may still have the ticket stub, but that's
Mm-hmm.
considering if those things don't fade. I used to actually save a lot of ticket stubs from movies I saw, movies I liked, movies I
Mm-hmm.
didn't like, and now me looking at them 5, 10 years later, they are so faded I can barely tell what they are.
That's true. A lot of those use thermotape, so
Yeah,
that
they're
stuff does degrade.
they're not gonna last, and I just
Mm-hmm.
won't remember these things.
I know, like I got like a drawer full of like old memories and stuff like that, and it's honestly something I don't even ever go through. It's there for like keepsakes, right? But it's definitely something I'm never going to go through at any point.
You sure
And
about
a
that?
lot of that stuff is probably going to degrade, to be honest.
You sure about that? You feel like a long while from now you'll be going through this stuff?
See, here's the thing. Like, I occasionally like picking up things, but like, I've never once gone back to anything I've ever picked up. And I'm not sure if that's just because I'm not at that age where I want to kind of look at that stuff, or it's because I just genuinely just kind of do a moving forward kind of, approach to things. You
Oh
know what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah, and believe me, I'm not sitting here saying like, "And remember your past. Go back to your past." We're in our 20s. More than likely, we're not going to be sitting here saying like, "Remember the good old days." We're sitting here saying, "Yeah, no, we're going to do cool things." But I guess I'm thinking just from my own, a weird phrase, but my own life historian.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about it in a sense of like, when I do look back on this, am I going to have things to look back on? To, to,
I get what you mean.
to
Besides just kind of like generic events that you just kind of habitually have done, right?
yeah, and here's a thought that I thought of today specifically um, when I was thinking up this exact thing. What we use right now, Facebook, as like a
Yeah.
way of kind of keeping track of all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Pictures, events, life events, anything.
Yeah.
What if Facebook goes the way of MySpace, or the way of, or just disappears entirely? Like the
Like there's
company
some
goes under for some
hacker,
reason.
or like there's a hacker attack that somehow like expunges a bunch of data kind of deal.
Well, no, because it would still exist. I'm talking about like Facebook ceases to exist within the next 10 years. Suddenly, all of that evidence of you doing these things is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be saved, not to be like, oh yeah, I can go find that eventually. It's just gone. Same thing with Instagram or Snapchat. Just these are places we're putting these things with the idea, oh yeah, these are fine. Like, oh, we can do like the on this day on Facebook. Oh look, 6 years ago I was doing this thing. But
Mm-hmm.
if that ceases to be,
Yeah.
then all that evidence of stuff you did is gone.
I mean, honestly, a bunch of it probably would just be lost. Like, I'm not in a big habit of backing up my stuff, to be honest.
Oh God, how could you? You really should get on that. I'm not like I don't want to like that this whole thing to become a lesson about like backing up your stuff. But seriously, just buy a flash drive, buy a hard drive, back it
But
all
here's the
up.
thing, right? Like, most of the stuff that like I really care about is stuff that's not really tied to something that's I have a worry about being lost at all. Like I can't even I'm gonna be honest, I can't really even conceive of a time where Facebook won't be an option to store pictures. Like that's kind of how ingrained it's kind of gotten.
Yeah, and I do agree that it's going to be a case of like, well, Facebook certainly isn't going to go the way of, isn't going to disappear.
Yeah, I mean
It's
shit.
probably never going to go away, or at least
I
not
mean
without
MySpace
everyone
is
knowing
still
about it.
around still.
Yeah, but I guess one thing I was thinking of was that if it does go the way of MySpace, where just it's still technically there, but you don't check it, you don't go there, you
Mhm.
think it's uncool, or it's just something you never think to do anymore until somebody brings it up, and then you're like, oh yeah, look at that thing. It it feels weird to me that we don't have like at least I don't have a thing in my own head to be like, oh, I should try and preserve this. I should try and keep this because eventually I might want to see this again.
Yeah, that's fair. Kind of keep like your own personal calendar of like what you've done and that kind of thing.
Yeah, because I hate to reiterate myself, but I've got a terrible memory.
And like remembering when you've done something just is next to impossible to be like, did I do it then? Or okay, that's it's kind of fair.
Yeah,
I don't really have like a huge drive to do that though. Like even if I think about it, right? Like like the only reason why I would do it, right, would be as like a mental exercise, right? Just to try and give myself like better memory, kind of do like constantly document like, oh, what did I do today? Just kind of give myself a little mental exercise of maybe making my memory kind of better. But
yeah,
that's really the only reason why I would do it, not because like I'm genuinely interested in the information itself. You know what I mean?
I do, but
Because I'm kind of the mentality of the past is past and the important things are still yet to come kind of deal. You know what I mean? And I'm not somebody that likes to dwell on the past too much, even if it's good things.
yeah,
It's always about like building what the next thing in your future is going to be. So holding on to that kind of stuff is a little meaningless. And yet, I still have a few things around.
right. And I guess that's what I'm trying to think of is that I have this feeling in my head that like I want to try and preserve some things that I've done or anything like that. And believe me, I don't want to preserve everything. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to preserve that time I cooked a really good pork chop or that time I decided to, I don't know, take a drive or something like that. I don't want to preserve everything, but
Mm-hmm.
it feels like that there's some important things going on in my life that eventually I might want to look back on.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I get your mentality entirely. But I do feel like eventually down the line you might want to look at some of this stuff. And
That's fair.
the way that we have our system set up, not just us, like I feel like a lot of people might, is that a lot of this is either disposable or non there's no real easy way to look it up.
That's fair. Like I even know like just trying to find just like a specific photo on Facebook is like when I have had to look for it because of something I've done in the past. It's a grueling task trying to find it.
Yeah.
If you don't have like things properly curated into albums or whatever you do, kind of deal.
Yeah, I know.
So I definitely understand what you mean there.
I know I have a Google Drive of stuff I've saved. Mainly it's like school stuff, but like I have a folder which is just photos that I've taken that I kind of want to save. Because God
Mm-hmm.
knows, I don't know, a hard drive might fail or something like that. It's not a ton of photos. It's certainly not like I'm sitting here with 10,000 photos a week. But it's
Mm-hmm.
enough for me to say like, oh, I would like to save that somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Have I sold you on this, or are you gonna keep to your heathen
Not.
ways?
I mean, like again, I'm not super sold on the whole thing,
Hmm.
right? Like it's nothing that I'm like really gun ho about doing. Again, if I do end up doing something like this, it probably won't even be like in the picture related or anything like that. It'll probably be more written, if anything.
Hmm.
Because I usually find like digital stuff I tend to not really keep up with, right? Like I still like put stuff up on Facebook and such, right? But like if it's going down to actually preserving a memory of something, I would be way better off writing it down than typing it in or taking a picture of it and leaving it there. Kind of deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. I got
Kind
you.
of like a little journal or calendar or something along those lines. At least that's kind of my feeling on it.
That makes sense. That's certainly a viable way of doing it.
Mhm. But I know that we also have something that's probably going to be very memorable for us both.
Hmm.
That we have completed. Me completed in record time, by the way.
God, people, before we get into this topic, I want to make a promise on the podcast. People can hold me to this. I probably will break it, but you know
Hmm.
what? I'm saying it right now. I refuse to share things I like with people until I've either finished or near finished something.
Hmm.
This has happened way too many times in my life where I've said, "Oh, hey, I started watching this show, Battlestar Galactica. You should watch it." And then the people I show it to just zip right by me, and they're like, "Yeah, I finished it. When are you finishing?" I'm like, "Oh, what? What? I'm on episode 5 of season 1. How did you
Yeah.
go through so quickly?" And that's what happened here, folks.
It happened unexpectedly
How,
because I think it was the last show that we did.
two
We
weeks
ended
ago.
up 2 weeks ago, but and I managed to pass him within halfway through the week.
It was
I
a
think it
few
was by
days.
I think it was by Thursday
It was a
or
few
Friday.
days that you just breezed through all of this.
All 2 seasons.
Oh my god. Well, no more dancing around it. What are we talking about, Ant?
We are talking about the Black Tapes,
Ooh,
which I have
scary.
to say was a great little series that has me a tiny bit confused, but whew, what a show that is.
Hmm.
I think we're pretty much gonna have two parts here, right? We're gonna have the first part, which is gonna be just us talking about in generalities of the show, and then after that, it's just gonna be spoilers.
All
And you
right.
can pretty much, and if you don't want spoilers, you can pretty much cut off your listening to this of the show at that point because we're not gonna have anything after this.
You know how our endings are. There's nothing. There's gonna
Yep.
be nothing exciting at the end of it,
Yep. I mean,
unless
we might
there
make
is.
a really, really crappy joke, which is kind of par of the course. I mean, you can hunt for that if you want. if you're in the mood for that.
People hunt for a joke. They're gonna be looking a while.
Yeah. So anyway, how'd you how did you like the show, Drew? Or actually, no, better yet, why don't you describe the show to our listeners?
Okay,
Or
that's fair.
listener.
That's fair. So the Black Tapes is a podcast. Starting out is initially about interesting people. It's more or less a podcast where they interview these interesting people of interest, and they talk to them about what they do, why they do it, that kind of thing. So episode 1 is about this guy named Richard Strand. Richard Strand is a is the head of the Strand Institute, and their goal is to bring about critical thinking and skepticism around the supernatural.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole mission statement is that we are here to disprove or show shadows of doubt on supernatural topics. And to do this, they brought out a $1 million prize if you can prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you have evidence of a supernatural thing happening. Now, as you imagine, lots of people have sent in entries to this institute about all kinds of things happening. Oh no, the door opened. It must have been a ghost. Oh no, it's just the wind.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of goes over a couple of these like entries to say like, oh well, here's an entry of somebody just photoshopping in a ghost into their footage, whatever. But then the host of the show comes across these black tapes. What is currently the name of the show. And these black tapes are tapes that are currently inconclusive to Richard Strand. They're tapes that he believes he cannot disprove the supernatural in these tapes right now, more or less.
Yep.
He does not have the resources necessary to disprove them at this moment. So he is not given the prize out, but he has held on to these tapes, saying that these are inconclusive, more or less. And the show goes over these tapes.
That's a good summary of it. It's pretty much Dr. Strand. What's her name again?
Alex.
Pretty much Alex trying to go through Dr. Strand's tapes and seeing if there's anything worthwhile there.
Yeah, and the series still stays true to its original mission goal, which is about interesting people. But instead of each episode being about somebody new, it's all about Richard Strand.
And pretty much the people in this whole field of, well, paranormal and all that kind of stuff goes through different types of people, and you meet a nice variety, that's for sure.
Yeah, from psychics to fortune tellers to other skeptics in the industry, and all these different kinds of people together. They bring on experts relatively often on their show to say, like, what this is, what it could be, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Like, they don't skimp. It's just not like a kind of drama cast. They actually bring in professionals within, like, audio, video, and, all that kind of stuff. Like, they're giving it the best fair shake you can ever give.
Yeah.
Something like this, at least.
Yeah. To give like a short example. This is slight spoilers, just to basically what an episode is about.
Okay.
There is an episode 3 of season 1 called The Unsound, which is this sound that is believed if you hear it, you will die 1 year after hearing it. Now, the entire episode kind of goes into the people who brought it kind of to the forefront of everything. They play it for audio engineers. They talk to Richard Strand about it. They do all this kind of research into it, on top of the typical topics for the podcast itself.
Yeah. That's pretty much what they end up doing is they just go through all the gambit of information that you could find about this,
Yeah.
and they do their best to try and investigate.
Yeah. Now, I'll get into half of my review of the show before the spoiler part.
Okay, so what would you how would you say this show is like if you had the tagline it kind of deal?
Um,
Because I would probably put Mystery Science Theater.
Unironic Mystery Science Theater.
Yep, that's pretty much what it is.
It kind of is. It kind of is. It really is just mystery, science, and theater with
Yeah,
the theatrics
I mean,
of a
like,
podcast.
basically, yeah. And you basically have the different personalities hitting each other back and forth. You have Alex, which is a she's skeptical, but she kind of goes back and forth in her
Um,
views on things.
um, we'll talk
Okay.
about that. Put a pin in that. We'll talk about that more in the spoiler
Yeah.
part.
And you have Strand, which is pretty much a absolute non-believer in any of this stuff.
Yes,
He is pretty. He takes the hardest stance against the paranormal.
right. There's no way that any of this can exist to him. Anything
Mhm.
that is put before him, he will give a theory as to why it might not have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's a thing that you agree with. Sometimes it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's evidence that makes sense. Sometimes it feels like waffling.
Yeah, that's fair.
Uh, and I guess if I can't really give a tagline. I think you gave a great tagline for this. Just perfect tagline. I would give this show a recommendation. I would say definitely listen to this. It is very, very addicting to listen to. And at the length that it is, between half an hour to an hour for each episode, it is a very kind of quick sit, and it is super interesting to listen to, especially with the story that they have.
Mm.
How about you?
Eh,
Is that your
It's-
review or just a sigh?
it's just a really good show. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, it's just something that I think is genuinely interesting and overall fun. I don't really know how to talk about this thing without like spoiling anything, you know?
Well, I think that's how far our spoiler-free version of this can go.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, it's a shorter episode for a lot of you right now, but I would say spend the other time that you would be listening to this, listening to the black tapes, and seeing if you'd be interested.
Mhm.
Certainly, give it a few, give it a few episodes. I'm not saying that the first episode is bad. I think the first episode is a very good hook, but if you're not sold on it, still give it an episode or two after that, because I feel like there's multiple hooks into this series.
Mhm.
It's not just one. You kind of get many to kind of for you to grab onto throughout the series. If you don't find one in the first episode, more likely than not by the second or third, you will certainly find something. And if you don't by then,
Mhm. Yeah. That's for sure.
yeah. But
Now,
from here on out, we are going to be going into spoiler. Unless you have something.
no. I was about to tell all the kids to get out.
Get out of here, kids! Kids, what are you still doing here? It's past your bedtime. It's like 10:23 on a weekday. You got
Mhm.
school to wait. You don't have. You might have school tomorrow, depending what you do. You might have school
mean,
tomorrow. Go to bed.
I got school tomorrow and elections.
Aunt, go to
That's
bed.
what
Go to bed. I'll tell the people about this show. Yes.
is it safe now?
From here, just a formal warning. From here on out, it is spoilers about the black tapes. I don't believe I. Will you be getting into all spoilers or just some spoilers?
No, this is
This is a blanket. This is everything.
this is we're gonna touch everything, and
Oh
I'm gonna
no,
I'm gonna kick the golden cow in the mouth.
kids,
Let me
definitely get
start
out of
off.
here. Ants touching everything. Get out of here.
It
Get
is.
going.
I'm on a list now.
All right. So last final warning. This is go listen to it. But if you listened, here's what we think.
Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
so first things first. It's fake.
I wasn't sure if we could say that in the non-spoiler part or not. I did my best at being like, God, I don't want to make this seem fake. Because, okay, I didn't know this was fake until a few episodes in. It genuinely
gonna-
took me a few episodes before I realized this isn't real. Did you have the same experience, Ant?
So this is where I get embarrassed. Actually, I kind of I may have thought it was real until like like an hour before we started recording.
Or are you kidding me right now?
Nope.
You never once Googled, is this real?
Honestly, I was just kind of enjoying the tale.
You went
And-
from the beginning to the end thinking this poor reporter is being chased by apocalyptic monks. Just, Jesus.
Drew, you don't realize how
I-
much I can turn my brain off when I listen to something.
I wish we had recorded last week because you still would have believed. I would have loved to hear you be like, "Oh my God, this poor reporter! I gotta reach out to the police. Have to be called." Oh my
Like,
God.
like pretty much till the end of me listening to the podcast, I pretty much just kind of bought it at face value until the last episode, really. That kind of was the big hint. Wait a second, this absolutely has to be fake now, because otherwise there would have been news reports about this shit.
Podcast released about global conspiracy.
You know,
Man about to play orchestra at the top of mountain. Well, no, and then just at the end it says, "Lol, JK, it's actually going to be in a radio studio."
actually I kind of got thinking about it. How like if somebody was like literally not thinking about this, at all.
Mhm.
They can pretty much take this. This would be like today's H.G. Wells, broadcast kind of deal.
Now, I'll argue that a little bit.
Okay.
I do think you're partially right, because I think everyone I've talked to who's listened to this has the same reaction where they believe this is a real thing until at least an episode or two in.
Well, thanks.
Like
Drew.
people start listening to. You're welcome. Well, the person who introduced it to me said that they didn't actually know it wasn't real until episode 5 or something like that. Like
Mhm.
they had already gone a bit in, and they were listening when it was coming out.
Okay.
So they had gone like weeks where they were just like, "Oh my God, this is happening. This creepy tall man." But it's really interesting to listen to people say like, "Wow, I can't believe that." Like I thought this was real. Now, this is where my part 2 of the review comes in.
Okay.
I
It's super convincing.
I realized this was not real when the show started to feel like amateur hour to me.
What do you mean?
I think some of the voice actors they have could have been better. The main cast, great. Alex, Dr. Strand, even the co-host, what's his face? Alex? No, not Alex. Whatever his face was. The other guy. The guy who helps
Yeah.
out Alex. They all do a decent job. It feels like the people they bring in for their stories sometimes don't feel like real people. They feel like I'm acting.
You know what? The one I did get that feeling out of and pretty much put the tip in me. Wait a second, this isn't real, is it? That kind of got me thinking that way was the D&D guy.
DMV guy.
The D&D guy.
Oh, the D. Yeah, that definitely was a tip off. That is much later, unfortunately.
It is.
It
Yep,
mine
it is.
mine was definitely like a little bit in the beginning of the first story where it's like about the tall man. That kind of tip like clicked something in my head where I'm like, this seems a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I forget the I believe it was the upside down face
Okay.
festival. One, how did you go past that episode without being like, holy shit, is this a real thing? Google.
I
that
mean,
that was an immediate tip on me. I'm like, this can't be real. This can't be a real thing.
honestly, Drew, I was just suspending my disbelief and not really questioning it.
Oh my god,
I
you
can
do it
see
so
when I say
hard.
that I can.
Like you just they could have told you anything. They could have said we are now being abducted.
All right, Drew,
Yes.
you gotta understand, man. I had been binging lore a week beforehand. Okay.
That is true.
And I was like I was in a mood already, okay? And for one, I can just turn off my brain when I'm listening to something. And I listened to all two seasons in the matter of 3 days.
You did. You did.
So that's another thing right there, Drew. I wasn't giving myself the mental break to actually think about anything.
You were
I
just
was
like eating it up like popcorn. You were just like, yes, more. And maybe you should question a bit of this. No more. It's only when it ended where you're like, wait.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
It's my. I guess that's the part two of my review. Is that I think this is a good series to listen to. It is a great series to binge on, and it is a good
Mhm.
series overall. A bit of it feels like amateur hour with the acting.
Yeah, the only time I ever really got that feeling was the D&D guy. Other than that, I thought it was all pretty good. I didn't really see any issues in anybody.
It's not overbearing with any of them. Like I
Uh-huh.
said, it's never like me listening to it and saying, "Jesus God, stop, just stop." But it's enough to kind of tip my brain to say, "Wait a minute." And believe me, I don't want this to be a series that people look at and say, "This is 100% real." Like 110% real. I think there should be a little bit of suspension of disbelief for it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think they're genuinely trying to go for a feel that they're not trying to pull you out of this.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's for sure.
with a couple of the voice actors, a better choice would have done that. Would have cemented this more in.
I guess. But like if it sounded too professional, then then that would have like lost a little credibility, really, of like the genuineness that it had. Like everybody felt like people. That's the thing, right? Nobody here felt, except for the D&D guy, like a unreal human being.
Yeah. And to be fair, yes, it should have a little bit of a blemish on it to kind of give you that human feeling. But I don't feel like it contributed enough to it. I don't feel
I
like it
don't
was
know.
something that needed to stay. It was something that I felt like it could have been improved.
I guess
But
I kind of liked a bit of the cheap nature of some of the voices, just because it sounds like just some dude you're calling up. That's
oh
kind of what they would be doing in those situations.
yeah, it
So I felt like it kind of lended it more, credibility, if anything,
yeah.
except for that one guy.
Now there
Can you
is
tell I don't like the D&D guy?
he he was a little bit of a stereotype. I'm not gonna lie.
He couldn't. I mean, come on, D&D dude. Yeah, I know about like Middle Eastern demons and shit. What the fuck? We've both been dungeon masters, and that's like what the hell, man.
Wait, you don't have a working knowledge of all mythological beasts?
No, I do not.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree. But I I guess to get even deeper into spoilers,
Hmm.
I don't know how to feel about the ending of season 2.
Yeah, yeah. That I don't know how to feel about that either. I don't really know how they're gonna go past this because there's a lot of suspension of disbelief that started to go away really fast.
Where they're being targeted by a apocalyptic monk
Yep.
temple
Yep.
to play the song. Now, I thought it was an interesting twist that they've been
Hmm.
playing the song this whole time, but to make it so that they are the ones who are triggering the apocalypse, I'm like, wait a minute,
Yeah,
wait,
yeah. The whole suspension of disbelief thing kind of died in the last episode. Like, died hard.
yeah, and I don't want to make it seem like it's bad. It's
Yeah,
just it
it's
gives
not.
me an
It's
uneasy feeling that the
like I
last,
feel like I'm listening to a piece of fiction at that point.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like I'm not just kind of going along with the story, and this may be plausible because that's the thing about this, right? The entire time it's going through this whole "this may be real" kind of approach to things, where it's not giving you like, "Oh, this is definitely like a fantasy kind of thing," you know? Like no, this actually may be happening in our world. I mean, shit, it had me for a few days.
yeah, and I don't know if you know this, but the next season of Black Tapes is going to be coming out in a few months, and it's actually going to be the last season.
I mean, that's probably for the best.
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see how this goes. It's got me. I'm gonna listen. It's just I guess this isn't the direction I expected to go in. Certainly not
Yeah.
saying that this is the it has to go in my direction, but it feels like for a series that was like all about showing off supernatural things and kind of
Refuting them and
yeah,
trying to say that it's just a trick of the mind and all that kind of stuff too. I mean, like they have yet to actually confirm anything. In fairness,
no, but it feels like all of their suspicions are coming true. And of
well,
course, I don't think this podcast is going to end with the apocalypse happening. That might
yeah,
be a
yeah,
little weird, but I think much like the series, as it goes on, it continues to give itself more and more to the conspiracy theories that it's posing. Like
yeah.
with Alex. Alex in the beginning was. I always felt like she was more of a believer than a non believer, but she
Hmm.
certainly.
She at least had the veil of duh rational stuff.
Yeah, every once in a while, Strand would bring up a good point, and she would say, "Wait a minute, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Like, where does a myth start? Oh, with a thing actually happening. That was a good point." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay, yeah, that's a good point." But it feels like
Hmm.
these days it's like, it's like, Alex, you understand you're saying that the apocalypse is coming based off of this evidence that you're finding, and she's saying, "Don't you see the links?" And he's just like, "No, no, no. Here's an explanation." She's like, "Ah!" It feels like the show is going towards that. Now, I will be 100% on
Okay.
board if the final season they say like, "Yeah, we got a little wrapped up in the conspiracy." Not the showrunners. Like the character of Alex is like, "So none of this happened. We got a little overzealous, started believing everything." What I really want them to do is that their their fan base is the one who feeds into this.
Hmm.
Like that the fans of the show are the ones who keep perpetuating this,
Hmm.
and
And it kind of be
they're
like
falling
something.
for it
Okay.
because they've already said that before. They've already said like our fan base is a little rabid with their obsession, reaching out to people that we've interviewed or anything like that. It's it's interesting, but I don't know if that's the direction they'll go in.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm kind of interested, just like what's going to be happening with like all the, just how they're going to move this forward at this point. Like, where do they jump from here?
Uh,
Like,
Al-
they had dudes with guns in the end.
yeah. Alex
Like,
shows up with a gun and a hatchet to the temple and just starts beating down the door. All the final episodes are just her beating her way into the monastery. It's a little bit weird with the week or 2 week intermission, but I mean, she does it.
but right, right. Uh, but seriously, I don't really know how this show's going to continue at this point. Like, are they go with interviewing like key people kind of deal? See, here's the thing, right? Like, we're already in the spoiler territory,
Hmm.
but there's certain things we could say at this point that would completely take away a huge amount of enjoyment of the show, and I still want to try and avoid that. So, should we go Inception level now? Do another level of deep spoilers?
We gave the blanket earlier. We could talk whatever we want. I guess you're going to be talking about Richard Strand.
I am going to be talking about Richard Strand at this point. Like, I
Okay.
feel like we need to go into deep spoilers at this point. Like, if you're just casually enjoying this now and you still have an interest of seeing the show, of listening to the show, so this is the second level of spoilers here that it's going to ruin the show for you if you hear this.
That
Okay.
noise you just heard was the final warning for anyone listening.
Bleh.
The goat. When you hear the goat again, deep spoilers will be over.
Oh, over. Okay, my bad. I was preparing the goat
So,
to begin.
what do you have to say about his stuff?
All right. So first things first, his wife is alive.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I consider this as something that's kind of pretty important.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
like that's like how the hell like are they going to try and interview their parents? Like, are they going to show that aspect? Because I literally it's the only thing I want to hear about right now.
well, I mean,
I want
that's certainly
Strand.
that's
I want Strand and her parents sitting down with Alex there filming it all. I mean, recording it all. Alex going insane. The parents crying.
Alex has not slept in 20 days. Regan.
Like, I don't know how like to go how to move forward with this. Like, that is just such a huge damn.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I never had a like a thought that she was actually dead,
I mean, I
or at least that she wasn't alive. I thought more just along the lines of she probably is missing, and when we find her, it's going to be interesting how we find her.
I mean, I was stupid, Drew.
Well,
I just believed she was
I'm not.
dead.
No. That's perfectly reasonable to assume because she went off in the forest and was missing for God knows how long.
I mean, I just kind of assumed that something bad happened to her. Like they were saying, like it could have been like the murderer guy that was kind of going around.
Yeah.
But I kind of just thought like, nah, that's probably not real, kind of deal. Like she's probably not alive, and this is just kind of them doing a wild goose chase kind of deal. Or it got me thinking towards the end, was she having an affair with somebody? Like that's what I was starting to think towards the end of things, and just to find that she's alive, and
She's
she's
having an
with this
affair with a
cult,
ghost.
and she's just with this cult.
Mm-hmm.
This is some weird stuff at this point,
That's what I thought
right?
might happen. I thought maybe she would show back up either dead because of the cult or alive in the cult.
Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even know what role she's supposed to be playing right now. Like, is she some like third party operative against the cult or some bullshit like that? Like, I don't actually understand what happened in the end.
Well, it sounds like she's a part of a secret branch of the government who is trying to look into this stuff. And she only showed up to give Richard peace of mind and to let him know, hey, stop doing this. You're gonna get killed or worse. You're gonna be used to summon Satine.
Ah, I mean, it seemed like it's a show. I mean, like I appreciate everything that's going on, but like it's definitely a tad confusing at the point it's at now.
Hmm.
What are your feelings, Drew?
I'm on board with it because
Okay.
I think it'll lead to interesting storytelling.
Yeah.
It'll lead to Richard probably having another meetup with her, probably
Maybe an
under less
existential
favorable.
breakdown.
Hmm?
Maybe an existential breakdown.
I'm thinking more just under less favorable circumstances. Like they met in a nice, safe, quiet environment. I
Hmm.
think next time they meet, probably won't be.
So, do you think like the ghosts are actually real in the show itself, or do you think it's just weird bullshit, or do you think people are just insane?
I think there's a few of these stories that are certainly real within this context of the world that they're in,
Hmm.
but I don't think all of them are.
Yeah, I kind of got the same feeling there.
Like, as much as I like their storytelling for the Tall Man,
Yeah.
I don't think that one is a part of the universe that they're building. While definitely the Unsound, we've learned, is entirely a part of what they're currently going through.
I mean, no, they've never confirmed that.
Well, the Unsound is a part of the symphony.
Well, yeah, but like they don't know if the symphony's just bollocks or just
Oh,
you
well,
know.
yeah, but I mean,
I mean,
I'm
like
talking
they
about.
like I'm talking about like confirmed within the world itself. That's what I'm talking about. Because like right now, the unsound
Oh,
thing could just be like completely. It could be something. It could absolutely be nothing. They haven't really confirmed it either way.
oh, you mean if these things are going to show up as a real thing?
Yeah, like an actual real thing in the show itself. That's what I was getting at.
I don't know. Because they've,
Because
they've
like
brought up a lot of different odds and ends.
Because like they do veil everything with like that brand of like, I mean it's possible. Not they don't like absolutely deny it, right? But they don't absolutely confirm it either. I mean they put like a lot of they give a lot of doubt. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like even within the show itself, just like the shadow people kind of deal. Like you get an overwhelming feeling of damn, that may be real in the show, may not be real, kind of deal.
I I genuinely don't know. I always thought it was a nice storytelling backdrop for them to have on top of the main story, which was about the Strand Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And these stories were just like, well, we have to talk about creepy things, so here's a creepy thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's fair.
since they're hinting a lot more that the tapes are all connected, I
Yeah,
wouldn't be
which, by the way,
surprised if they did end up being something along the lines of, yes, all of these things are real, and they're coming to get you, or
yeah.
something
You
like
know,
that, where in some way, shape, or form, all of these things have a
the one thing that
presence.
I did find was kind of odd was that they were saying that the tapes were all connected. Like, there wasn't really any showing that they were connected. That's like the one conclusion. Like, that was like one of the conclusions that she was making. I was like, that's what you get from this? That seems like you're just kind of insane at this point, actually. Like, that's when I started doubting her sanity. Was like she was thinking that these tapes were all connected, kind of deal. You know?
I mean, I started dating. I started like questioning her sanity when just she started basically pitching these theories at him. When she started saying, "Oh, but all these are linked together," I'm like, you're starting to buy into it a little bit. You're starting to
Mm-hmm.
buy the farm.
Yeah.
It, and thankfully she's right with a lot of it. But
You know what? You know what this has been? This has been an exercise in making me realize like how much I can suspend my disbelief. Like it genuinely has, and I've learned something about myself through listening to this show.
do you think it's a good thing? Would you ever try and stop yourself from suspending this disbelief so much?
Honestly, I feel like that really heightened my enjoyment of the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't see a problem
I,
with it because that means you are enjoying this without any of the nitpicky stuff that like I went through, which is just like, oh
mm-hmm.
man, this kind of like lessened my experience a little bit. Not anything noticeably, but certainly like where it's like, this is a
Because
little
like
bit much.
if a story's pretty much if it's pretty much put in world kind of deal, right? And like they do like a pretty darn good job of like making it plausibly deniable, then like I totally could like believe a story on that. I'm not sure what that says about me though.
Yeah, and here's kind of a point that I'll kind of wrap my ideas on
Okay.
is I think this is a great series because it was able to do something that not a lot of series like this are able to do.
Mm-hmm.
It made me kind of buy into its conspiracy theory. Where
Yeah.
most of the time I would be like, oh god, like you're trying to make me buy this. Come on. Like I'd be very
Yep.
skeptical about all of it. But the
Yep.
way it's telling its story and the way it's framing everything, it it feels a lot like Serial. Follow me
Yeah,
on this.
that's no, it totally does. It totally did. It totally did feel like cereal to me.
It felt like it in the way that they were framing this in a way.
Of a trusted news source that all that kind of stuff. You made it far removed enough for me to not know that was not a real news agency.
Well, not even just that. Just simply the fact of the way they presented the facts was biased in a certain way. Was in a way that they did lead a lot of credence towards these things possibly being real.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of bought into it to the point where it was genuinely creepy. And that is a big mark for me on the series. A good mark. Not a bad one, a
Mm-hmm.
good one. To say, like, I listened to this and I bought what they were selling.
Mm-hmm.
They were selling some crazy stuff. And I bought
And it
it.
was all wonderful. Do you believe in ghosts?
That is a big topic that we will save for another time.
Okay, that's fair.
I feel like we might actually do a part 2 in this podcast.
Maybe. You know what? That's what we'll do next week. We'll do that also. we had to throw in the goat there because we ended that spoiler thing a while ago.
Yep, just a little bit, just a little bit.
I'm not going to timestamp that. They got to find that.
Well, I guess final thoughts on the Black Tapes.
It was good shit.
Listen,
You should all watch it.
li-
I mean, listen to it.
listen to
Yeah.
it. It's pretty good. What quick
Watch the numbers tick up and tick down
one
on
quick
your audio player.
one quick question for you before we finish.
What's up?
Did you listen to any of their other podcasts?
What do you mean?
Did did you hear about the other ones that they did?
No, I have no idea about them.
Perfect. All right, that's it.
Okay. Well, this was a place and a time.
We filled it in with VHS tapes of the black variety.
Yep.
How do you fill a cup with tapes? With like physical media?
The answer is you crush it up and make it a powder, and then you get cancer.
Oh no.
Yep.
Oh
Well,
no, children, no.
this was the blank space, and we filled it in, and yep, you all have a nice evening.